Thank you, everybody. I'd like to call the Village Planning Commission meeting to order for May 24th, 2023. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okie dokie. Could we have roll call, please?
Campbell,
Yep, here.
Christian, Lacey,
Here.
Cascola,
Here.
DeSessa,
Here.
Wallace,
Here.
Everly,
Yes.
Kinnaman,
Yes.
Okonski.
Yes. Kristen did call in and request to be excused.
I'll make a motion to excuse Christian.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, so excused. All right. Could we have a motion for the approval of the agenda for this evening?
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I will second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, so moved. All right, looking at approval of the minutes from March 22nd, 2023. I was not here for that meeting, so I have no idea.
I have two corrections. My name is spelled wrong. I have two N's in my name. And Mr. Rich is not listed here as being present. Other than that,
With those corrections, I will so move approval.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? With the
Aye.
correction? Any opposed? Hearing none, so moved, as amended. All right, could I get a volunteer to read our statement of purpose, please?
I'll do that.
Thank you.
Our statement of purpose. The mission of the Holly Village government is to enhance our community's quality of life. Our organization strives for quality services, responsive action to citizen requests, and a cost-effective government. We promote citizen participation, proactive decision-making, and environmental quality. Most importantly, we shall always serve the citizens of Holly. The Village of Holly will be a prestigious, historical village that is a green residential oasis from the city and the center of commerce and activity for the region.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we move on to the item of public comments. If anyone would like to get up and speak before the commission of an item that is not on the agenda, you may do so at this time. If doing so, you'll state your name and address, and you have about 4 minutes. All right. With no one moving forward, we'll move on to public hearing. Could I have a motion to open public hearing, please?
I'll make the motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and
I'll take this
second.
one. Second.
All right. Have roll call, please.
DeSessa,
Yes.
Lacey,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Cascola,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Everly,
Yes.
Kinnaman,
Yes.
Okonski.
Yes. Public hearing is now open. All right. The public hearing is in consideration of the rezoning from commercial to industrial for the property located on North Holly Road, parcel ID IH 0128276029. All right. So, moving on. Is there anyone here at the public hearing that would like to? All right. Mr. McKay, you could please state your name and address.
Thank you. My name is Ken McKay. My address is 11035 Fish Lake Road in Holly. The purpose for this rezoning is we're interested in putting small mini storage units in. And that falls under industrial. So
Pay no attention to their bad.
So, we're looking to rezone for the purpose of storage units. There's about little over 2 acres, 2.5 acres of usable land. Already has a drainage pond that's built in, and we don't need much infrastructure as far as water and sewer back there. But the units that we would like to put in would be a steel manufactured units, and there would be close to 150 to 200, depending on the sizes that we choose.
Okay,
So unfortunately, it falls under industrial rather than commercial, and that's why we're applying for the rezoning.
all right. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Joanna Barnes. I live at 3393 Harrington Drive. I live in Mill Point subdivision, and that subdivision happens to be adjacent to the parcel that that is being discussed tonight. I have some strong concerns about rezoning this property to be an industrial property. Not only is it adjacent to a neighborhood, when we rezone to industrial, you can't unring a bell. So once it's done, there's no going back. And if, for some reason, these storage units were not successful, which we've had 2 storage units before, I don't know if people are aware of this, but we have 2 storage facilities. One was absorbed by the other because it was not successful. That's already happened once in Holly. So, and that came from the owners that told me that. So I have a concern that we're going to put this in, it may not be successful, and now we've got this property zoned as industrial, and what can we put there? What can we stop from being put there? You guys don't have the purview to be able to stop something from being put there if it meets the criteria. And now it's in our backyards. There's also the concern about pollution, light pollution, the heat pollution from the concrete, from the metal. These are literally people's backyards. There's nature that's there. I understand that he has a business to run and that he needs to be able to make this property usable for him. But we also moved into the Holly so that we could have our green spaces, so that we could have beautiful places next to us, not so that they could be dug up so that we could have a storage facility there when there really isn't a dire need for one. And it would literally require rezoning to then open up to such a broad spectrum of other potential businesses that could go there if this one was not successful. I realize that's not your purview to decide what will go where, but it is your thought to think about. Once we change this, we cannot go back. And you are then saddling us residents with an industrial piece of property that backs up into our backyards. So that is of great concern to me. There's also the concern just of people coming and going into a storage facility, and it's in their backyards. You know, there's the light coming in all the time. There's so many things that have not been well thought out when you're thinking about going into somebody's backyard. And I've seen the property at the Oakley. It's gorgeous. I wonder how he would feel if this storage facility was abutting his wedding property, where that was what his wedding guests were going to see, because there is a wedding venue there that's there as well. That's something that should be taken into account too. That property owner isn't here to speak for himself. I don't know why. Maybe he is. I don't know. But what I do know is that there are so many different things that have to be taken into account here, that this is a huge decision to be made. I'm just like, you know what? Let's make it more convenient to be able to put this property in, because there's not a lot of infrastructure needed, and this happens to be what fits. Maybe we just work a little harder and find something that fits a little better for that property. So, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Debbie McKeever, 15185 Sealy Drive. My brother, sister-in-law, and I bought our home almost 4 years ago. We back up to the area under consideration for rezoning. One reason we bought that house was because, first of all, in front of us, nothing can be built. There's a big public area, what do they call that area? Common area. I used to work at Common Ground, I should remember that. And behind us, I tell people all the time, nobody can build anything behind us because we were told that when we purchased the property. No one can build behind us. We have the common ground in front of us. It's beautiful. As a senior who's retired, I love sitting out on the deck and listening to the birds, seeing the deer even that come into our yard, the deer, the rabbits, the squirrels, which drive our cats nuts, but you know, it's okay. I moved from Rochester Hills. I don't know if anyone knows that area, but it is crazy. When I hear people up here talk about the traffic, I'm like, oh my gosh, have you never been out of Holly? Rochester Hills is a zoo. Every spare piece of land has been turned into something. So I wanted to get away from the craziness. I'm 72 years old this year. I don't want to be around that. I want quiet. I want peace. So, saying that, and also, I get nervous talking in public, sorry. But also, even in your purpose, you mentioned Holly as a residential oasis, the green, the land, the beauty of it all. And do we want to be another Rochester Hills? No, I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir in the back row.
Thank you. Ryan Matson, 15091 Western Valley Drive. I too live in the neighborhood in question, but my home is not on the property or the subject property fence line. But I am a real estate professional, and in my opinion and experience, buyers have less or more often than not will not purchase a home that butts up to a commercial industrial if they have another option for a home that they like. With that, the comparables within the neighborhood, if the values are to go down on a sale because someone that needs to sell that home that butts up to that needs to sell, reduces the price, it will then affect the home sales, or excuse me, the price for the rest of the neighborhood because they're similar homes. I also have concerns for the folks that do butt up to that property that it will be a 24/7 facility. You'll have people coming in and out, up to 200 units. That's many opportunities for moving vans, box trucks, surveillance lights that they'll need to light up the grounds in order to be moving things in and out of their facility. And then there was no, at least I looked at the property as best I could. I could see the homes with the trees that were there, what few trees that were there, so there would be very little coverage. The gentleman that spoke about his desire of the business to be there didn't mention a plan about a fence. I'm not sure if there's one that's required, a cinder block fence that you typically see that divides a commercial and residential property. If there's any plan for tall trees or shrubbery to help block that site and noise in sight. And then, excuse me, lastly, my concern is if we do make this switch, we have other parcels that are for sale or that could be for sale that are on Grange Hall Road, especially that also butt up to this subdivision. And so if we allow this parcel to go from commercial to industrial, do we then have just cause or the precedent out there set that we should allow the 11 acres, the 0.86 next to it, to be moved to something to industrial as well, and have those concerns brought up amongst even more homes surrounding the neighborhood? I'm not fully 100% familiar with the ordinance. There could be some things in there for fence, shrubbery, blockage, whatever. I'm just raising questions and concerns. But those are my main points, is what it would do to these people's quality of life, as it states in what Ms. Wallace had read, is what we value in Holly. Home values and just quality of life for those folks in this property coming in. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Danny Justice. I live at 15137 Sealy Drive. My property is directly behind the said property being proposed to change. Everybody here pretty much took my thunder, did a nice job, so I'll make this short and sweet. A couple points I want to reiterate. The lot lighting is huge for me. When the Grand Bell went in, we had major concerns. Those folks have done a fine job. When they have their parties and their weddings, those lights are off at 11 o'clock. It's beautiful back there. The wildlife, my wife went through the roof when she heard about this because she's going to lose her deer and her fox and all that stuff. The one thing I didn't hear was the master plan. Now, the Village of Holly has spent a tremendous amount of time on a 5-year rolling master plan regarding this very issue. Now, 2 folks have already brought up the issue. If we rezone this from commercial to industrial, that's going to set a precedent. Now, I know at least 20 people that live
Speak
in their
into the
homes-
microphone, please,
I'm
sir.
sorry, that live in their homes that would love to run a business out of their garage. So if we start switching these against the master plan, are we going to start letting homeowners run businesses out of their homes? So with that said, everybody else covered my same concerns, so I'm not going to beat the dead horse. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that,
No one else?
may I add a few things?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Debbie McKeever, 15185 Sealy. Danny brought up a point that I forgot to make about the running the businesses out of garages. I don't know if any of you are real familiar with storage units, but there are actually people that run businesses out of their storage units. People that can't afford an office space, so they rent a storage unit, they take all their equipment there. Sometimes they're there night and day. Our house being backed up to their bedroom, big windows, the lighting is gonna be horrible. Also, what would prevent, I know the other storage unit on Grange Hall has had problems with thefts, you know, all kinds of people coming in and out. And there's a way of getting in, even if you have to have a code or a key card, whatever it is. So I'm worried about that, about the type of people that this might draw into our neighborhood, really. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McKay?
Ken McKay, 11035 Fish Lake Road, Holly. Couple things that, the site plan that we developed was just a preliminary, just to see what we could do with that property. So as far as addressing fencing, lighting, anything like that, trees that have to come or go, and the other issues have not even really been addressed because it was such a drastic zoning change from commercial to industrial. Realizing that it is in a residential area, I didn't realize that there was that big of a zoning difference for storage units. Now, if there was any type of a variance that could be made for that particular business only, that would go in there. So if it did fall or fail or some catastrophic thing happened, like a tornado wiped everything out, and it wasn't salvageable, then it would not be turned back into a manufacturing or industrial of that sort. So it would be special exception for storage units. That would be something that would be very doable because that's what we intend to do with it, so. Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
No,
Not at this time.
not at this time. Anyone else? With seeing no one move forward, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Lacy,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Everly,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Bessessa,
Yes.
Kinnaman,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Okansky.
Yes. Public hearing is now closed. All right, moving on to old business. On old business, the discussion of capital improvement process, the capital improvement plan process. Okay. I believe, Adam?
So, Alex,
Excuse me.
but I'll speak on behalf of administration and Roe this evening on that.
Okay.
So we did meet with yourself, Mr. Okonski, and Mr. Kinnaman a few times with Roe Engineering on incorporating the CIP plan. The process is getting kick-started as we speak, and we anticipate something coming in front of this board within 3 to 6 months. Obviously, Mr. Okonski and Mr. Kinnaman will be part of the process along with the Roe Engineering and the staff administration at the Village of Holly. So with that being said, we will wait for those documents to be finalized with your assistance and Roe's, and then we'll present it as a group to the commission as a whole within that 3 to 6 month time frame.
And the information that's being worked on is in what nature?
So it would be a capital improvement plan, and we are going to be basing it off the master plan recommendations that were formulated in 2019 or 2021?
21, I think,
21, you're right, yep.
was when it was finalized.
And of course, you and Mr. Kinnaman will both be part of the process in the drafting of that. Roe has provided us a template that they've used for several other communities of our size and nature, and we'll be using that template along with the master plan to formulate the draft for our capital improvement plan.
Okay, so if I'm, I guess, understanding this correctly, on our master plan as it stood, off the top of my head, I want to say there was like 40 or 50 items
Of course, yes, sir.
in capital improvement that was talked about, mentioned, and virtually nothing done. And we had many times talked about wanting to whittle that down to a manageable area that became somewhat, I guess, feasible. So in our moving forward, can we also then discuss items to be put in there where we can request or make recommendations to council to almost put together a budget that is like a kitty moving forward, where it wouldn't fit into one calendar year per se, and then just kick it off the table where it's not doable, where we can then have something moving forward where we actually have a plan where we're working towards something versus it just being accepted or denied or whatever.
Absolutely, Mr. Konski. Great points. I appreciate that. So, council and staff with Roe's assistance has looked at that list. Some of the items on that list are not obtainable or fall in the criteria of a capital improvement plan, such as the purchase of a new backhoe. And I'm drawing a blank. I apologize for all the items on that list, but we would take some of the lower hanging fruit that would be an affordable goal to set, and this would be a living document that would be addressed by this commission on an annual basis, that would either address items that needed to be moved up or down on that list according to budgetary items. As I stated in my opening statement, we are still working on this process. We've received the template from Roe now. We've sat down with you two individuals on 2 occasions through Zoom and phone conferences, and our next step is budgetary numbers. Where does that lie? What kind of a threshold we have to work with, which will then give us, out of that long list of 50 criteria that are obtainable and achievable, realistic goals that would be obtained.
And then your goal is to have something theoretically within 3 to 6 months presented to the commission.
Yes, sir. That's our goal.
For us then to preview to see what our opinion is moving forward on the agenda or on the items that are, but on that list, I do want to unfortunately see the entire list along with the selected fruit to make sure that we are also in agreement with that.
Perfect.
All right?
We'll make those notes.
All right. Any questions by anybody?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I have one. So I understand the process laid out sounds good to me, but the priorities that come back here in 3 to 6 months, will only these two gentlemen be deciding those priorities with the administration, or will this entire panel at that point get a chance to vote on those?
So those logistics haven't been set in stone yet. The discussion with staff was the two individuals, the chair and co-chair, vice chair, along with Rose Cooperation and Administration, to gather the list from the master plan, pick those items that they felt sufficient, and then move that forward to this panel. So with the suggestion of Mr. Okonski of the entire list, and then the list which will be automatically generated in that report that was picked from the team will come to you, so you'll have both lists in front of you to compare and contrast the different items and open a discussion of whether those items line up in chronological order as to your likings, or if an item is on that list that maybe should be on a different list, or items that are not on the list that should be on the list, if that makes sense.
It does, thank you.
Yeah, I think what he's
Sorta.
talking about is that it's more like becoming a subcommittee. And because of the nature of our governing structure with a full staff that would normally be doing this on a day-to-day basis, then as chair and not just vice chair, but also the council representative for this board, this commission, to be kind of the commission eyes on their process. And then anything that, remember, our role as a whole commission is to approve a document for recommendation to the council. And so at that point, it definitely is a full commission, point.
I'd just like to see at least one other member be involved besides you two. I'm sorry, Mr. Kinnaman, but your view is very different from the rest of us who sit on this commission. You are embedded in the community in ways that none of the rest of us are. And so just to have a little more balance from the commission, I would request that one more of us at least be involved.
And we'll take that request to administration and give you an update on that.
I will second what Sherilyn said, that more than one.
Is there a
more than
reason
the
we
two of
couldn't
them
vote on that
need
right
to be
now?
on there.
I don't know if there would be a reason to vote on it right now, other than as a statement.
I'd like to hear how anybody else feels.
I think it's reasonable to have a third person.
Yeah.
I think a third person is reasonable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd say, yeah, I certainly think it's reasonable as well, and I know you're gonna take it back, Jeremy, perhaps maybe at the next meeting is something we could vote on. I understand why it wouldn't be voted on today,
I
but.
just don't know the legalities of the whole process of this. This is new to not only me and this commission, and I don't want to have, and Alex, if you have a different statement other than what I'm,
No, you mean, should I come up or?
please.
Yeah.
Yeah, microphone.
How's everyone doing today?
Good.
This is Ro. It's good to see everyone again. I'm glad we're kind of talking about CIPs. I think some of my discussion on the presentation maybe got a little way of how the Plan Commission. I think it's something that you guys can decide of how you want to go about it. If you want to have a 3-person subcommittee, that's totally acceptable. Ultimately, I guess to make it just as basic of a concept as you have staff, just like you have a fire department. If there's a fire going on, you have your fire department go out there, or the police, and so on and so forth. So ultimately, that the Planning Commission works on is
essentially, the staff works on it, they present it to you, and you guys make a decision to bring it up to village council. And, you know, what's on the list, or what you want to see on the list, or what you don't want to see on the list, ultimately comes to you guys. So the staff will prepare that, they're aware of items in the budget, and they can put that together for you guys to make that recommendation. So, you know, most communities just work that way, where it's either, you know, the village manager and the clerk, and they put that together, and they bring it to the plan commission, and they make some changes, and then it comes back to me, and I'll make those changes as the consultant in terms of, you know, making sure that all the numbers line up and all the places are, you know, in terms of chronological order of what you want to see in terms of the priority of the projects before you guys give it its final okay for council. So, yeah, I think you guys have a pretty good understanding and working order of what you want to do.
As I was saying before I was cut off, I do agree with Sharon Lynn, the point that we do have two very like-minded people who are on that committee, and I do believe that it is very important to have a third person on there that might not be as like-minded and that can bring in other information and other points of view that would not be considered from the two that are already chosen.
And again, I agree as well, but just to follow up on a positive note, I do appreciate Richard and Mr. Okonski for working with these meetings with you guys to try to move this forward on a positive note. One small criticism there, I think, and maybe this came out earlier, I would appreciate if we knew in advance that these meetings would be going on. I understand things move quickly or whatever, but that's a small criticism I have of that part of the process. I'm not saying I don't think it was required. You weren't a quorum, and you guys were having a, you know, what might be called a typical administrative type meeting. So just saying, ideally, it'd been nice if we had heard up front. That's all.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, Mr. Sessa. So just to make the air clear here, there was nothing deceitful behind this process. This process was requested by this commission for many, many years.
Right.
This process is now starting to get going.
And I appreciate you for it, Jeremy. I'm not claiming deceit. I said small criticism, not saying anything deceitful or
I just want
improper.
to make sure that
Yeah.
everybody in the audience and listening knows that
And
Gotcha.
that
this
it went
project is
forward
a group
without
effort.
it went forward without the rest of us knowing it.
All right, with everything said, listening to last month's meeting on YouTube, the commission got the idea that they are involved in anything to do with capital improvement plan. They are not.
Pardon me.
You are not. You are to put it on the master plan as recommendations. We are not the body that goes out and gets estimates. We are not the body that goes out and gets funding. All we are is to take the voice of the community and put it on the master plan. Over all the years, the master plan capital improvement area has grown enormously. I've tried to get it to come before us to whittle this down to a manageable area. All right? We cannot just ignore what is currently on the plan. It is now to whittle it down to a manageable item. That's why I requested, let's sit down and get down to where we think the top priorities are, along with everything that's already currently on the plan, so that everybody's informed of what's there, what we think is going to be the most achievable fruit, all right? Nothing being decided whatsoever other than here's our top 10 items, and now here's the bottom of the stuff that we're saying, you know, it's just not worth even considering. Let's concentrate on these 10 items. Is everybody now looking at this list, looking at all the other 40 items? Are we all in agreement that these are the top 10 items? That is what will come back before the committee to look at and make a decision. We are not trying to take anybody out of the picture. All those items will still be there before everybody.
No one's saying that. All we're saying is that without the knowledge of the rest of this commission, two of you met with these people in this process. That came as a surprise to us tonight, and as Mr. DeSessa said, that feels pretty uncomfortable. Second of all, we are asking for another one member of this commission to join that process, because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us here who don't already hold positions within the village. And we would like to have, we feel we're representing the community, and we would like to have one more person involved in this process before it comes to the whole commission.
Okay. So find out from administration what the procedure would be in adding a member, to then set up meeting times to accommodate that,
Understood.
and we'll move forward from there. Now, my opinion, all right, would be, it would be most likely the officers of the commission. So, in my opinion, it would end up being chair, co-chair, and secretary.
I'll take that suggestion back to administration. I apologize, I'm not knowledgeable on how the process would work. And like we said, this isn't trying to rush this through by any means, so we'll take this next month to get that process under control, notify you, the chair and vice chair, along with the third member, and then bring it back to the board in June. We'll have another meeting in June regardless, to educate the rest of the panel on procedures and next steps.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Is this a normal process to have a subcommittee? You made it sound like that, Alex, I'm sorry, that staff would typically just do this and then present their ideas to us, and we would be narrowing that down.
It's a great question. Nothing in state law that I've seen that requires that, just how you guys want to operate in-house, right? Like I said, ultimately, it comes back to you in terms of what you approve. Now, there's going to be a list of what, like I said, is the top 10 projects or top 20 or whatever it may be, and here's a long laundry list of stuff that is really important, because you're looking at making things that, you have a long list in your master plan, and typically people create a long list in your master plan saying, well, if it's not in here, we can't fund it because it's not on the list. Well, that's not quite true. There's no legal basis for that. It's just a matter of practice. Oh, our board. Let me get up to the mic and finish on the last few sentences. So essentially, you guys still get the ability to look at that list and make a final decision before you make that recommendation. So there's nothing that's being removed from the planning commission in this process. You still get the final say before it goes to village council.
And you think it would be ideal to have whoever the people are making the list to have those same people throughout the whole process?
Yeah, I really can't give a recommendation.
Based off what other municipalities have done, or?
Most of them are just the staff prepares it and brings it to the council, to the planning commission to look at it. Typically, these are pretty straightforward, just items that you want to prepare for or pay for in a certain year, in a 5-year plan. So you should prepare the plan and say, hey, in that master plan, we really want to replace planters in the downtown. Wonderful. If you can't afford it now, we can afford it in 2 years. So you can just prepare yourselves to have that money available for planters in 2 years. So, kind of an example. So.
And just to,
I see the representatives from the commission in that process, not really in the day-to-day operation of that process, but as staff begins to go, okay, here's like draft number 1, and we're looking at maybe these top 10, 15 items. This group then looks at that and goes, well, have you thought about this one though? Or let's tweak it a little bit before we take it to the full commission.
Okay.
That's what I really see my role in that process as. I don't see it as, being involved in the day-to-day of creating it.
I think for the sake of transparency is what I'm hearing from everybody, and correct me if I'm wrong. but for the sake of transparency, if the six of us had come and said, oh yeah, by the way, we had a meeting with staff and we decided this, then the two of you would be going, wait a minute, we weren't involved in this, and then you would feel the way that we do right now. So I think for the sake of transparency, and especially for the public, and for the members of this commission, that it be very transparent, be very open, and, you know, that asking for a third person who is an extra set of eyes, an extra set of ears in the community and on that subcommittee can only enhance and only add to transparency and would take away that secrecy feeling
I
that
don't
has
see
been.
anybody objecting to that
Yeah.
third person.
So that's,
Then I'm
it's
good.
just, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alex. All right, there's an old business, letter B, decision of meeting schedule. I guess listening to the podcast or the YouTube video, I'm thinking I heard something about a time change that was being brought up or something?
Yes. It was,
Yeah, so the commission, I believe you were absent, but the commission, we brought it up, it was on the agenda. All the other commissions in the village have now moved to a 6 o'clock start time. The commission at that time elected to wait and to see what council was going to do before the planning commission chose to either vote on the time change. As we all know now, the planning commission is the last meeting that is held at 7 p.m. on the dockets, and for a better word, of just keeping everything simple, we would hope that this planning commission would also join the rest of the commissions and move to that 6 o'clock time slot.
Okay.
Commissions and council.
Commission and council, that's correct.
and all the other boards, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All the other boards as well have moved.
HDC, ZBA, plan, or,
DDA.
council, parks, is all a new start time of 6 p.m.
Also,
Just
being
for,
that you weren't here last,
We
we did
did
not
not.
want to change it without that. there.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that myself. But again, everybody being, you know, basically almost volunteering your time, you know, everybody, some people work, so I don't know if that would be a problem, but
Why don't we just make a motion and
I'd
vote
make a
on it?
motion that we change our meeting time to 6 p.m.
I will second.
Oh,
do we have a
Let's do it.
roll call, please?
Koskela?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Lacey?
yes.
Wallace?
Yes.
Everly?
Yes.
Kinnaman?
Yes.
DeSessa?
Yes.
Okonski?
Yes. Alrighty.
That does everybody now, right?
Yep.
that's correct, yes, sir.
Yes.
We were the last holdout. Who knew?
Okay.
I saw the ZBA did it too, but I wasn't at that meeting.
Going on to new business being item A, 2023-003, consideration of rezoning from commercial to industrial for the property located at North Holly Road, parcel ID IH 0128276029. Okay, Alex.
So I believe everyone's received the packet and the letter, and reviewed it. So I want to start off by framing the conversation about rezoning, and kind of, I'm sure everyone is well aware of that. We're just focusing right now on rezoning. There's no application of the use. Right now, it's an application for rezoning, which is from commercial to manufacturing, and that, the PC here, you guys are making a decision that will go to the village council for final decision. So whether or not you decide to approve or deny, the village council can then make the final approval on the decision for rezoning. It's also to be noted that in the zoning ordinance, there is an ability for the applicant to apply a condition upon themselves, at not the request of myself, staff, or the planning commission. That would have to be a self-imposed condition of rezoning, which would be ultimately the use of it, or any other conditions they feel as if are appropriate. In order for that to happen, the applicant would have to retract their current application and then reapply for a conditional rezoning, which would have to have a public notice for everyone to know what the conditions are of that. Another item I want to make sure that everyone's aware of is that your zoning ordinance is quite unique in that you have a provision in there that's no longer allowed to enact in zoning ordinances, but yours is grandfathered in, which is a use variance. The applicant could apply to the ZBA for a use variance for a storage facility in a commercial district, which would still require to have a full site plan review, all the standards and standards of approval to go in front of you. Most communities have opted to get away from use variances for the simple reason that you have a quasi-judicial body that could make land use policy decisions in contrast to what the elected body, which is the village council, would decide upon. So it's kind of a unique thing that the village probably has. And also too, I think lastly I want to mention in my letter number 3 on the first page was, it is within the discretion of this council, the planning commission to make text amendments. If you do feel that storage facilities should be allowed in a commercial district by right or by special land use, that is up for this planning commission to decide if that's something you want to table and explore. So aside from that, lastly, I want to make sure that's very clear that the checklist for zoning for rezoning here that was in your packets, that are items 1 through 7. These are not necessarily required. These are kind of guiding things that you would want to review when rezoning. And my comments in either support or against are in there as your planning consultant. So these are things that are useful, that are within your zoning ordinance to guide you in deciding on a rezoning. As well as my letter also included the requirements or criteria, if you will, for each of the districts regarding commercial, neighborhood commercial, in obviously light industrial as well, of what the master plan requires the criteria for rezoning, because your master plan has a future land use map, and that future land use map is a guide in terms of what the community has decided to plan forward. And so, as we know, the future land use as is currently is for commercial currently and for the future, so to take in consideration. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have, and talk about my report or so on.
Does anybody have any questions for Alex?
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't aware of the ZBA. We have a unique situation and grandfathered in. And
yes, this was something that was kind of common in zoning ordinances throughout Michigan, but it was, I believe, in 2006 or as amended. How's that? As amended, the Michigan Planning Enabling Act has removed that to be created for the simple reason that lawmakers and folks in your position and council members and trustees throughout the state felt as if it was kind of unique to have a quasi-judicial body, the ZBA, be able to make land policy decisions, without village council's discretion. So,
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for Alex? All right, thank you. All right, Commissioner comments? Or Mr. McKay, would you like to get up and speak again? Anything that you would like to add to your other statement as far as, you know, you have the ability to talk right now if you would like. All right, so no problem. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Anything?
I don't.
You ready for a motion?
Well, first, if there anybody has any questions or any,
I have one. As far as like we said, we change it to the
Industrial.
commercial to industrial, whatever. And a couple years from now, doesn't want to have a storage. Put anything he wants in there, industrial wise.
anything that fits the industrial
He's
envelope,
probably just
yes.
stuck with it forever, and he can sell it to somebody else, and we could, God only knows what ends up down that.
That would be correct.
So, as Alex had mentioned, though, there is a solution to that. I was talking with staff, and you can correct me, Mr. Watson, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's Venue 111 has a situation, or their zoning is, if their building burns down or is destroyed, the only thing that can go back there is another venue. So as Alex was saying, if we did change it to industrial, and what would happen is we wouldn't pass this amendment or this resolution, thank you. They would come back with another one and say, we want to put storage units there, and we will only put storage units there, and any other conditions that they wanted to put on there, then we would vote on that.
What if the venue burns down and they sell the property, and the next people to buy the property don't want a venue?
Doesn't matter.
So my understanding, it's locked in.
By
and
what?
It's actually, I'll fix this just a little
Thank you.
bit.
That's why I said my understanding.
Right.
Yeah, I'm trying to
It
understand,
wasn't specifically venue only. It was, these are items that will not be on that property.
Okay,
And that transfers with deed. Because
okay, there's
it
deed
was
restrictions.
correct,
Right.
is what it would be.
Okay, but
Um,
that's not the same as that they couldn't put something in there.
Well,
Yeah.
unless it was on that list of things that
There.
when the venue came before us and said, this will not, this cannot, this cannot, this cannot, those are called conditional.
For their approval. I'm talking about
No,
if they go away.
Well, if they go away, because it was a zoning change.
Right.
And it was a conditional zoning change then.
Alex, you wanted to
And a conditional
mention,
zoning change carries those conditions in perpetuity. Correct?
That is correct. And as long as your records are very strong,
Yeah.
say that
Right.
as your consultant, that
Yeah.
you want to keep strong records.
And you've seen an instance in the past where records have lost in lawsuits?
I mean, come on. As a consultant, I think this is something that I have seen, because in the 90s, things were still very much paper dominant in terms of records. As things transitioned electronically, sometimes things were lost. You have a neighboring community that, I think something like that happened recently that I've heard of, in other places like that. So record keeping for that. Now, this would not be a deed restriction. This will be a conditional rezoning if the applicant therefore chose to. However, there is still all of the items of site plan review and site plan approval. So even if you check off all the boxes and you've made certain, design elements in there to mitigate some items, there's still your standards of approval that need to be met for the planning commission to approve. And I always strongly recommend that the planning commission always reads off the reasons for approval on every single standard that's necessary, because that's the reason why you're approving it. So there's still a lot of work to be done. Hypothetically, this is a matter of rezoning as opposed to use.
anybody else question on that?
Now, also in the conditional process, we as a commission may not make that request. We cannot do that.
Right.
that has to come solely from the applicant. And so, we can't sit here and say, can you put that on there? That has to come strictly from the applicant. And, you wanna,
Is that the question? I think I did ask that question before. Is that a possibility to have that in
You said that in your comments earlier, yes.
the?
And that's where Alex was bringing that up
but
to make you aware of
understanding
that.
from the way Alex has presented that, what you would want to do is rescind this request and create a new one that's amended that would put those restrictions in to the rezoning. That is the only thing that would go there. I know some of your other questions as and concerns as neighboring the property is things that actually fall into the site plan review, and there are some pretty significant standards that have to be met in order to accommodate residential next to either commercial or industrial. Even if that piece of property was developed for commercial, there are barrier types things that have to be in place. I know what it's like. I was across the street when they came presenting the one they wanted to put storage units in where the home is going. I felt that was a wrong location where it was at, and came as you did as a neighbor, and had concerns about it. I also know that at some point that piece of property is going to change, unless somebody buys it and turns it into a park. Something will eventually be built there, and it's how do we best make that happen? Taking into your considerations, and when we review, we have specific things that we are looking at that are objective rather than subjective. And so we want to be sure that we are looking at those things. There's no guarantee that these things on this list pass tonight as it's presented. We have to have discussion on that, I think, on whether there are items in these 7 points that that bring up enough question to say at this point we can't move forward with this. The only way to not make that happen at this point is for Mr. McKay to retract and come back with something different. So I may just be pontificating, but I hope I'm clarifying a few thoughts.
I do have one concern of something that I think it was Ms. McKeever brought up, that they were told when they bought their property that nothing could be built there. Was that something that has been on a deed somewhere that we are not aware of? Have we looked into that? Is that something that we can look into? Because if those people were told that, there had to have been a reason why they were told that. So that is something that I'm not quite sure where that information came from. and if we need to do some more checking to see if that,
Well, the property owner's here, so he would know if he
I know,
has
but
any deeds restrictions.
like I'm saying, but like he was saying, deeds have, records may not have been kept strongly. And so that is something that maybe he is not aware of. I don't know, so that's why I'm asking you the question. Is there something that we can look back in the village's records to say, why were they told this? Is there something on a deed restriction or something?
My
So when
guess
we-
is
That we know
someone
of.
in real estate that was selling the property told them
Well,
that
that's
because
what
it
I'm
was a
wondering.
green area in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what they were told.
Yeah.
Mr. McKay?
Come up to the mic, though.
Yeah.
There is no deed restriction on what can or can't be developed. Whatever they told you, there's nothing in our deeds. But with everything being said tonight and the way that it's set up, I would like to rescind our application for rezoning for the industrial and come back with a proposal for a exception, special exception, or a special land use of some sort. And the other questions that were brought up, I appreciate them all. Most of those would be handled on the site plan review with the lighting issues, the wall barriers, the times, things like that. Those are all handled in the.
There we go. We do. I moved from Flint to get away from this and came to Holly. I should have stayed in the city of Flint.
So
Make
if
him an
I could do
offer.
that at this point, then rescind our. And do I have to figure out a different type of an application now then?
Yeah, contact the office and we'll point you in the right direction.
Okay.
All right. So with that being said, new business, item A is now removed off the agenda.
Or no action taken. It's received.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. You're a good man.
All right, moving on to new business, item B. In our packet, there was a change and/or addition to the Village of Holly's ordinance number 472. And it's my understanding that this was given to us so that we are now all aware of the Village of Holly's ordains the amendment chapter for code of ethics. So is there anything staff would like to talk about that?
Nope, we just want to make sure that everybody has read it and is aware of that. No other comment. Self-explanatory.
Anybody, I'm sure everybody has read the item that was in there. You know, it was just more information, and now it is official, basically, to a code to follow. Item 10, training, which there is none of. Now, there are an item on there for the ongoing training videos to watch for the web and email service, so that you make sure you're compliant and you're up to date with do's and don'ts of phishing and things like that that are part of being on the email chain of the village.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Yes, me neither.
Do you guys have a village?
Do you have a
email
village
address?
email address?
Not
No.
that we've been given.
Oh,
Okay.
Do you do?
I believe it just goes to the chair, and then Mr. Kinnaman has one because he's on council.
All right, so,
And then everybody else is just on the email chain as what they provided to the Village of Holly on their application.
But it doesn't get.
all right, so it's only
So-
because of the chair and co-chair?
So like I get the newsletters, but I don't get anything
Right.
besides
Yeah.
that.
All right,
No,
now-
I have, like, monthly, I have
That's right.
videos with questions at the end on fishing and not going out and fishing,
No,
but,
but
you know,
PH
email
fishing.
issues and website issues and those kind of things on how to be
Be prepared for
proactively
scams and,
protective.
okay.
So, be glad you don't have it.
Well, if it's
They're-
something we're supposed to know.
They're helpful and knowledgeable, but it's a lot of
But
extra.
if you're not in their email system, that doesn't matter. Okay. Moving on to reports, ZBA.
I missed the meeting.
It was canceled.
No, it wasn't. Was it? The last one was? What?
Last planning commission was. I don't know about ZBA.
It wasn't ZBA. I know I missed the last ZBA that there was. So I know I missed the last one.
It's been a while. It was for, I want to say a fence or something. I have to go back. It's been a while.
Passed whatever it was. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Nothing to report for last month.
All right, DDA. Nothing there yet?
I didn't go to the meeting.
They have, they had Ladies' Night Out a couple of weeks ago, or Ladies' Weekend. And I believe this Friday, no, next Friday is a First Friday event.
Is that the Art in the Alley?
I think, yes, Arts in the Alley is the theme, yeah.
They met with that train company to reduce the price in the depot. It was gonna be like $180,000 and now they got it down to $40,000.
Well, yeah, that's a depot committee type of thing.
The DDA talked about it.
Okay, yeah. What she's referring to is, there's communication wires that are along the track, and they need to be taken down in order to move the building past them. And the railroad said then that they would bury them when they put them back, and they were gonna bill us $180,000 to do that, which they would probably end up doing anyhow. And we have done, staff has done some negotiating on that and got it down much more reasonable. So that is one of the steps that's still holding us up on the move, is some of those final
details.
So are the bathrooms gonna get built before the depot gets moved?
Bathrooms for in the park?
I thought there were gonna be bathrooms that I just heard at a council meeting a couple back that were gonna get built. They were in the budget. Bathrooms for the downtown, like at the end of Battle Alley, and they said they were gonna be in that same area where the depot is gonna be located.
From what I understood,
Park.
those were going to go, like behind the antique store, where the dumpster used to be. Originally?
Originally, that's what they were supposed to be. And then I heard
Yeah.
Park.
The Crapo Park.
I think it's in
Stay
flux.
tuned.
Yeah, I think it's in flux where it's
Planning?
going.
Planning commission?
Yeah. Moving on to council, then, we've been on budget process, and that meeting, I was bringing my daughter home from college,
Yep.
so I missed that.
So you
one.
missed that one, okay. Well,
Yes.
I'm sure, I was sure I heard that they were being
Yeah.
built, because I was thinking cart, horse, cart, horse.
Yeah. And those, the depot and anything else are two completely separate things.
Okay.
The depot has its own fund, its own, when funds are raised, they go specifically for that purpose. And so it's a designated thing outside of any budgetary type of process. So in essence, it's its own entity.
Okay, but we go back and forth because then
Right.
staff just negotiated on behalf of the depot, so.
Well, it's owned by the village, but it's not in the general budget and that kind of thing. It's its own process. Okay.
I think that leaves parks.
It's like, it doesn't come before this commission.
No.
Mm-mm.
All right, council? You said you weren't there.
Well, I wasn't at that. There were 2 budget sessions, and I was moving a student on the first one. And so then the second one was a presentation, included a presentation on our water infrastructure. Over the past couple of council meetings, there have been, we have approved entering into the process for some replacement of some sewer and some water infrastructure. And those were 2 separate items, and that process was entered into in order to begin almost a year-long endeavor to get grant monies applied for and things to come back. There are state funds, and unless we made the approval, yes, enter into this, we don't even apply. So it was the process to apply
And that
for
was in
those.
council.
And that was in council, yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Anything else?
That's good.
Parks Commission?
Can I,
Yes.
can I speak to DDA for a moment?
Sure.
Actually, it's DDA/Park.
But you have to come up there.
Josh Murphy, 103 Battle Valley. We're in full swing starting for holidays, Dickens Festival, First Fridays, all that stuff. I'm always looking for bands. The problem with getting bands for holidays is that, you know, it's a volunteer thing. So if anybody knows anybody that wants to play, let me know.
Okay. Free.
I'll try, like I said.
Yeah.
If I
Well,
can,
I know.
I gave you this information. All you gotta do is contact them. I swear he'll come. They love to play.
Parks Commission? Did they have any meetings? Parks?
I'm sorry. I don't follow the parks.
We are gonna plant the H garden on Saturday morning.
Oh, good.
I know that.
Okay, I don't know.
And their budget was cut by 5,000, I know that. That's my parks report.
Well, it was reallocated. The bottom line was the same, but yes, they're discretionary funds.
Your fellow
was-
council person who serves on the Parks Commission told me it was cut $5,000, so
Yeah.
however you want to say it.
Yes, their bottom line is still the same,
Mhm.
but yes, they're available for discretionary funds to
Mhm.
change in order to balance some other increases.
Right.
Yes.
Lovely.
The new park structure, playground structure for the kids is, I think, finished.
Mhm.
So
It is.
It's nice.
Mhm.
looks very nice, yeah.
Amazing when it gets hot in the sun like all of them do.
Mhm.
I don't know why that's a surprise. You know?
Because you have to rake leaves.
Because sun is good for you.
Right, gives you vitamin D.
Yeah.
They say. I had to take supplements myself, so I'm going to sun so I can avoid it.
Can I ask Richard a question about council business?
Sure.
All right. Richard, is it too early to talk about this whole idea of the township getting that new property for at least their new offices? Such a large building, I mean, are you guys gonna at least
Well,
look at that?
That is a committee that is looking at that, looking at a relocation location. I chair that committee, and what we requested in that committee a couple of months ago was that a study be done, and council voted to hire a firm to do an assessment of what our actual needs are. And that, I believe, has been completed. And
Well, I don't know if it's been completed. I was
I
asked.
know they're
Okay.
compiling it.
Yeah,
I
there's-
know
right,
that they
well,
are compiling
right.
it.
The assessment, the questioning portion has been completed. No report has been brought back yet. We don't expect that for probably a month. And I know that the township supervisor is interested in having multiple entities on that property. But they would have to come with a plan to that committee in order to have it looked at along with our other options.
Makes sense. One follow-up though, I mean, this report that's being compiled, that almost sounds like it was already done before this township property was bought. Is that true, or?
Yes, well, yes. And what this assessment is it's determining how much office space is needed, what kind of, if we were to look at another location, whether it be currently on the table is the Sherman campus, to move into that with the school district, or to
Cyclone Park.
do some things at Cyclone with the old ambulance garage to rehab and build an addition onto that. Those are the two currently on the table that we have looked at, or at least talked about. And so to determine what we need before we sit down and go, well, we like this or we like that, maybe none of those options fit what the assessment comes back saying.
The budgetary also, it has so
Well,
many other
There
factors.
are a
that
lot of
have to come in.
components that
Yes.
go into it before we, what's it gonna cost at each location,
Is it better to pay rent for expenses or have
Right,
our own
there are-
property?
There are a number of different components to it, but I do hear that since that property has been purchased, that there is a desire to make a presentation as well on that.
Well, here's my lamentation. We have the school district, we have the township, and we have the village. I understand why nobody wanted to go into the middle school. I think the schools have been a terrible landlord, and I think the building is ill-suited for that kind of a purpose. However, we just watched the township spend $1.6 million. We're going to watch the village is talking about, let's just throw out some numbers. If you build something, there's $500,000. $3 million with some advanced planning could have gone into the Sherman Middle School to have it rehabbed and repurposed so that it would have fit everyone's needs. But until we start to put our monetary resources together, we're gonna keep doing this dumb stuff. I really resent it because everybody's got their own little fiefdom, and we, the taxpayers, keep paying the price. I'm done.
Okay.
I think I'm out of council things.
I think that started out with comments and commissions.
Yes.
Comments.
Well, we're moving on now to commissioner and staff comments. Lori?
Happy note. Well, not really happy, but it's in a way that you think of it. There's going to be the parade for Memorial Day on Monday. It starts at 10 a.m. And then there's going to be the ceremony afterwards at Lakeside Park. I hope everyone comes and I'd say pay their respects and their honor to everyone that has our fallen heroes. And remember that it is Memorial Day. It's not just a celebration and party time and that. It's to what that means to you for Memorial Day. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Campbell?
Went to the training at Grow. It was very informative. Learned a whole bunch about the e-cars coming. They're all coming. They're coming. Can't afford one, but they're coming. So, and the infrastructure needed, and the ordinances, and all that fun stuff that you guys are gonna get to work with. I don't have to really too much about it, but it was interesting. It was, I gave up trivia for that. So I'll be 3 weeks gone with trivia because I can't go tonight and miss trivia tonight, and I'm gonna miss it next week because I'll be on vacation. So much for Team Ramrod. I'm just losing, I guess. Team Ramrod.
Is that right?
The training was very good. Thank you very much. In terms of the electric vehicles, it really was just to prepare us to think about it. You know, when you're doing work on a parking lot, make sure that you put the electrical in, or at least you're ready for it when the time comes. And some of the comments from your folks, too, about how just the way we look at EVs has changed. You know, we keep thinking about what's going to happen to the gas stations. Well, the bottom line is EVs are going to charge at home. So, you know, that whole industry is changing. And I'm kind of proud of Holly that we've got some EV stations here. And Angela and I checked them out. And, yeah, you can pretty much get at them without too much trouble because accessibility is a big thing. And obvious that they pointed out, but none of us think about, where do you plug your car in? Every car plugs in a different spot. So how do you make that accessible? You got to make it accessible to the front, the back, the side, the bottom. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciated that very much.
It's very informative.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's on video. You can watch it again too. That's your training too.
Yeah, I too took the training. I thought it was very nice, as usual, as all road trainings are. As far as the EV, one thing I took away from that is, obviously you want some existing units, as Holly has, but for planning purposes, sometimes you don't want to go too fast. You want to prepare and lay the groundwork. I think Sherilyn touched on that, but you don't want to necessarily install everything right away because things in that industry do change with technology and so forth. So if there's some big project and you put everything in place, oops, by the time it opens and gets going 3 to 5 years down the road, there might be different needs at that point. So just don't go too quickly sometimes. And then on the parks training, real quick, what I took away from that is I didn't know. I wonder if Parks knows, correct me if I'm wrong, you know you will, but that if they're going to go for some grants, which they probably should be doing at some point, then they need their own 5-year plan, sort of like the plan we've been talking about here tonight. They don't have that. In lieu of that, they need their own CIP. Did I not understand that correctly?
Yeah, so
It
makes me fitter. I guarantee you that. You guys maybe get up more than any other community. So it's important to have your Parks and Rec master plan updated. I'm doing that in another village community that was in last night in order to get funding through the DNR and other programs. So just like planning, it's good to have your Parks and Rec plan up to date.
That is not a state law I'm taking, but it's something that you recommend at Roe. Is that not correct? It
is not a state law. It's a recommendation, I believe.
Okay.
If I remember.
Yep.
For Parks and Rec, a little different, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever go, and I'll just conclude by saying, if you ever go to road training, Torch Burgers are in the alley behind it.
Yeah.
I got to carry out.
Good place to park too, because parking's kind of challenging sometimes.
Yeah. You can park in the alley too. We can for a little bit, yeah. People do that. It's one of the best parts about working there.
Ms. Wallace.
Yes, I will second what Sherilyn and what Bill have said. That the training was very, very informative. I did not know a lot about electric vehicles, but I found out a lot, and it was nice to be able to take that information and come back to our community and really check that out and see if we have been, thinking about the things. And I think that we have done a very, very good job with that. It made me think deeper and more, progressive about the electric vehicles and what we do need to be planning for. I did have a couple who brought up to me, it would be Kristen Stillman and Brian Stillman, and they were wondering about the Johnson Building, when that would be coming in front of us. again, and if that was still going forward. And I told them I would ask tonight because they were not able to be here.
And what building is it?
The Johnson Motors, the.
Oh, Joseph.
Joseph, whatever it is, yeah, Joseph
so
Johnson.
Cloud Cannabis.
Yeah, yes, the other
Cannabis
cannabis.
facility.
And which one is that? Because I am not
Cloud.
sure which one that is. Okay.
Is the applicant's name, and you will see that next month.
Okay. Thank you.
If everything aligns.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have the site plan.
It's already been submitted. It's in Rose's hands, going through the review process as we speak.
Okay.
So
I
we
will.
didn't meet last month, so you might need to update on what the real process has changed to with that.
As in what happened and why it's not
Right,
made it.
what's
So,
different? Because
they had some
we
structural.
reviewed a site plan already.
Yes, so now that site plan will be removed. They're resubmitting an entire new site plan. As they were getting ready to start demolition, the engineers noticed some integrity issues with the building, and the cost of the renovation outweighed the cost of a new structure, plus of all the other items that go along with renovations versus new. They have elected to demolish the building and build a new facility.
Aren't there trees growing in there or something like that?
I'm sorry?
Aren't there trees growing inside the building?
Yes.
Well, there's,
Yes, there are.
I'm more concerned about the safety of the public.
Yeah,
We have
sure.
kids in there that are constantly causing trouble, drugs, alcohol, inappropriate activities, and just trying to keep it safe is almost a daily task, so.
Yeah. Jim?
Thank you. So a couple things. For the research I was doing for the item on our agenda this evening, I was trying to find current zoning, and I did talk to Mr. Watson about this, and I think our current zoning information that we have available to us is from 2019. So a map, if we want to see what parcels or how they are zoned, it's 2019. So it is branded with rows. I'm hoping that there's some way we can get updated a zoning map, so we can do that. The second one is the ordinances, and I know previous conversations I've had personal conversations, I guess not with you, that the ordinances online are not updated. Is that correct?
Yes, they get updated, I believe, once or twice a year.
Okay.
Twice.
Twice a year.
Twice a year.
So if a new ordinance comes in, either from the planning commission, the village council, that gets submitted to American Legal. I'm assuming it's financial reasons, that it gets updated every, twice a year. So if it is not updated, you see an ordinance that is missing that you think should be on there, please point it.
Okay.
You know, I'm not in control of entering those ordinances or maintaining them.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say a joke there, but we're not gonna do that there. So it is my daughter's birthday week, so happy first birthday week to her.
See the balloons in the
And
window?
you can see those, huh? And I saw you driving by a couple times looking at them. If you want one, please.
I was more excited
Come
to
on
see
in.
the flag. I
I'll
like
give
the flag.
The smiley face one?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And come November, she'll be a big sister, so that will be fun.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We're gonna have a boy, so that's.
Since you're putting your personal stuff on.
So I'm done. We're done.
Thanks for stealing that ribbon, man.
So I did take one of the last 3 ribs that were at Holly Foods, which were delicious. And
He
someone
tried to upcharge me.
if I could have sold them for an extra 10, I would have.
Scalping, huh?
Ribs are ribs.
Yes.
You snooze, you lose.
That's right. I was there at like 5 minutes to 7 too, so he was.
Oh, wait, it was good.
Oh,
It was like,
yeah.
it's like right there. She was like, oh no, he got the last 2. Okay.
That's all I have.
Anything?
Because that was very important to say.
Richard?
Chamber of Commerce has a couple of events starting to come up in the month of June. Concerts in the Park begin, third Thursdays of June, July, and August. The first one is Stephen Michael. He is a local young man. His mother is Diane Ducat, real estate agent in the area, if you know. Last year for 22, he was selected through the Tri-County Times as Entertainer of the Year. Great young man. The one in July is a Celtic group, And the one in August will be a Christian worship night that we did last year as well and was well attended. Also, on the 17th, it's Saturday the 17th, that evening will be our second annual food truck and concert in the Holly Foods parking lot. The band for that is Cool Lemon Band. It's a 9-piece, and they do a lot of 70s, 80s dance music. 9 pieces, a lot of brass, singer, and a keyboard. So those are the next couple of things coming.
Anything else?
That'll be it.
Okey dokey. As far as I'm concerned, I have nothing. Anything from staff?
Oh, just on the zoning map, just to be clear, the map you probably have is from the master plan. If there is a land use that, rezoning that's occurred, those, staff would update, that you would send to us and we could update the map. So if there's any bit of rezonings, the last time it was updated, we would just kind of, plug in that, like, I don't.
So there have for sure been different zonings since 2019.
Rezonings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
We'll work on getting you a new
Okay.
map. I have a note on here.
Okay.
I mean.
I don't
we
really
can
want
do
to
it
have
if
to
you
call
want,
staff
other
every time I
places
want to
do
check
it
on the
their
property.
own, So, it all depends, yeah. Happy to help, how's that? Yeah. That's really good.
That's what we pay for.
Yeah.
No comment from me, sir.
All right. Last thing is public comments again. Does anybody in the public like to get up and speak? All right, let's call this meeting adjourned, please.